Lions, tigers, and bears, oh my!
Atomic submarines, goalie mass serial killers, and aliens, oh my!
Secret agents, fuzzy gophers, and spandex-clad heroes, oh my!
It's Sonic Cinema on 90.3 WHPC.
Ray.
Hi, Daniel. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And loved the movie. I want to talk with you about the genesis of the film. Like, how did this idea come to you as a writer-director?
Life and death is just such a broad human subject, and I think it's something that is always prevalent in our lives, whether we realize it or not. So I think that was always been a big theme in my life. I was, that kid that stayed up till, I couldn't fall asleep because I was looking at the ceiling thinking about what happens when you die. And then, I think when I was 10 years old, my grandfather passed away, and it was the first funeral I'd ever gone to. And we went to the wake. And my mother brings me up to the casket, and my mom, holds his hand for a minute. And I just remember being horrified. Like I was smart enough or old enough to understand like that wasn't my grandfather anymore.
Right.
And, I guess that just those kind of things that always stuck with me. And then like, a few years before I wrote the script, I had discovered online these things called extreme funerals, where they're a real thing, and they'll put their loved ones on their motorcycle or, doing whatever they love doing in life. And I think it just kind of all came together in this weird, bizarre story. And then also thinking about the first film you want to make, you could spend your entire lifetime trying to decide what kind of film to make. And so what I did is I wanted to sort of do something that pays homage to the films I grew up watching, kind of left of center type of stuff, everything from like Five Easy Pieces to After Hours, Punch Drunk Love, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Really just wanted to focus, or at least try and focus on some type of artistry or bringing something of artistic value and some artistic integrity into the world.
Definitely felt the After Hours vibe while watching the film. That kind of comedy is very hard. It really takes the right script, and it takes the right actors in the roles to kind of make that happen. So when you were writing this and putting this together, did you have actors specifically in mind for these roles, or did that come together somewhere else in the process?
So I think for me, and what I've learned and what I continue to learn more every day is, I love the old saying that expectations or resentments in the making. I try not to have too many expectations. So when I'm writing, I might pick some actors or some people I've met in real life to kind of model in my head as I write this. But I try not to get attached to that, because at the end of the day, especially in the film industry, a lot of this is just about, schedules and timing and whatever. So if you get all attached to only this type of actor, or this guy is the only one who's going to like make my movie be what it's supposed to be, you're going to be pretty miserable through the entire creative process of making a film, because you're constantly always going to be disappointed. So I tried to be as open as possible. And I think, once I saw, I've seen Keir around for a while, and, particularly in It Follows, one of my favorite horror films of the last, couple decades. And then a casting director turned me on to Atypical. And I watched Atypical, and it's a very different character. But at the same time, I just saw Keir, and I was like, that's Mortimer. And lucky enough, he read the script and he really liked it. And then once Lucy came on board, everything sort of just fell into place.
Yeah, my daughters were extremely thrilled that Lucy Hale was in it, because big Pretty Little Liars fans. And this was a different role for her, and also a different role for Francesca Eastwood. I'm a big fan of MFA, and that's a rough film, and such a brave,
very
wild performance in that. And it's great to see her do comedy. Any funny stories about working with these actors who are known for doing different stuff, now doing something that's quirky and comedic?
Yeah, I think so the one thing that's always come to mind as far as funny stories that happened while we were shooting, I think it might have been our first day. It was in the first couple days, and it was definitely the first day that I was working with Reese Colroy from Entourage. We discussed the character at length, and, he kind of went through his whole process. And also, I absolutely love Reese. He is just such an amazing character actor. He's also an amazing theater actor, and I'm also, because I grew up kind of doing theater and whatever, I'm just a real sucker for actor like craftspeople. But anyway, I think it was Reese's first day, and Reese just really went in deep with exploring his character and was just so into it, like from the second he was on set, and very over the top. And we were shooting the scene where he shows up at Mortimer's apartment, banging on the door, demanding money. And the scene that's actually in the movie where we're on Kier's end and he's trying to knock in the door. He actually did knock in the door and break the frame of the door, and it's in that shot. And so when you hear like the wood crack and the drywall kind of trickle down to the floor, that was real. And Kier's look of like, holy crap, I think I'm going to get whacked in the face with this door. And I think also too, the cast and the crew and people were a little, it was Reese's first day. And so, it takes you a couple days to kind of get everybody into the right flow and see where everybody's at on both like a professional and a personal kind of level. And we weren't quite sure where Reese was. So, but he brought it. And Reese is one of the sweetest people as well. But it was a really memorable first day with Reese.
And it's to his credit that a character that could have been just a one-note villain really wasn't. There are times where you really felt for him. There are times that you laughed at him. There are times that you felt bad for him. Not your typical villain.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
I have to ask you about Jim Gaffigan. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
I've actually been told I look a lot like him.
I see it.
Wanted to ask you that there has to be something there, of course, working with Jim Gaffigan. I can't imagine him being serious on a set. Any funny anecdotes about my friend Jim?
Yeah. So Jim, what's funny, and I've noticed this throughout my life with a lot of people who come from the stand-up world and comics, is they're surprisingly not as on as you think they might. Or, it's kind of like they have their on switch, they have their off switch. And I love Jim, but kind of for a lot of different reasons. Like Jim was just as like he was like Reese level, like, as far as like asking questions and being concerned about like his character's motives and things like that, to where, I really feel like Jim is going to be in a league of like a Robin Williams or a Jim Carrey. And I lean more towards the dramatic, even though he's playing comedy in this. I get the vibe, and I've seen it before from comics of these, a lot of these guys, comedy comes from a dark place. My comedy comes from a dark place of, from when we were a kid trying to be the funny kid in school because you were self-conscious or whatever. So working with Jim was actually just very good, but not in the way I guess most people would think. And I say that with all love and respect. He's such a great, super, super smart person as well. I got to learn a lot from him in the short time we were working together. But as I said, with like some comics have their on and off button, I'll just switch to Jay Farrell really quick. Jay is always on. I've never seen him off. Like, I think he literally probably hangs out in his room before he goes to bed and just says funny all day, every day. And I love Jay as well.
Talking about the romantic chemistry. So we said comedy is hard. Romance and getting that chemistry was so important. And it was beyond romance. It was love. Working on the chemistry with the two actors, with Lucy and with Kier, how did you approach that?
Yeah, other than just, maybe sketching out ideas, there wasn't really any serious, it was kind of always Kier and Lucy. And actually, I have to give them all the credit. And this is also why, at least, and this is more for maybe other filmmakers out there, for me, it wasn't about making a movie or making my first movie. It was about making the best movie I can make. And whether that took a year, 5 years, 10 years. So that being said, because we took our time with it and, to do my first film, I wanted to work with other professionals who were as serious as I was about their craft. And with that said, Lucy and Kier are two of the most professional, talented actors I've met. And really, the job of a good director isn't directing, it's hiring the right people who know how to do their jobs and do an amazing job doing it. And that's really what it was. That was all the credit goes to those guys. It was really just me, steering the ship a little to the left and a little to the right. But other than that was totally Kier and Lucy.
How did it feel to be creatively in control of this project? You were writer, director. It's a very lyrical project. You obviously brought a lot of your musical background into this. you've been working with over the years so many directors who are known for their control over film, like Christopher Nolan, James Cameron, Zack Snyder. What was it like for you now to have control over your own baby?
Yeah, I think, and again, it's sort of, I don't know, like control is kind of a word that I wouldn't even like sort of bring into my vocabulary when it comes to directing, because for me, I think, control, it kind of goes to ego or to this or to that. And there are some amazing auteurs out there, Paul Thomas Anderson, Martin Scorsese, all of these amazing, brilliant guys who have been doing this for so long and are at the peak of the craft. And I am not that, so that being said, for me, it's much more about directing is much more about what you don't do. It's about letting the other creatives explore their sandbox. And, you're sort of just maybe the parent in the room, if that, but you're still really one of the kids also. And just allowing the performances to develop, allowing, whether it's your production designer or your wardrobe person or your sound designer, to let them explore their creative field and to do their thing. And then if you have maybe suggest something or see, but largely what I found is when you release that control, it ends up coming back like tenfold better, because it's just stuff that you wouldn't have even thought of.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, listen, congratulations on a wonderful, lyrical, fun, funny, romantic film. And thank you for spending time with us today.
Thanks, Ray. I really appreciate it.